Hi, I'm Renee Walker, a mindset mentor, speaker, and lover of all things spiritual. I believe that at our core, we are all spiritually wired for love, peace, success, and abundance. Here on the podcast, we're diving into mindset, wellness, and business, but always through a spiritual lens. Let's just say we're going deep, but we're keeping it light. So let's elevate your life from the inside out, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Spiritually Wired. Welcome back to the Spiritually Wired podcast. I have with me today Danielle Amos, and she is the Mystic Millionaire Mentor, a transformational teacher and a guide for ambitious women ready to awaken their divine potential and live in alignment with universal law. Danielle is also a protege of Bob Proctor, and she weaves ancient wisdom, energetic mastery, and mindset science to help women transcend limitation, embody abundance, and manifest extraordinary lives with grace, purpose, and power. Let's just say that we speak the same language, and I am so looking forward to having this conversation with you, Danielle. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Renee. It's an honor to be here. So grateful to meet you, finally.
I know, finally. It seems like we should have known each other for many years, and one of our friends connected us, and I'm really looking forward to speaking to you because what I feel from you, so I know that you speak a lot about manifesting extraordinary lives. And part of that means opening up the conversation around money. And I always feel, I'm always curious. I would love for you to share what your personal journey has been with manifesting and with bringing more money into your life.
Yeah, well, I would say that my relationship with money has always, I always knew that I could create more money. Like I had this feeling, even as like a young child, that money was somewhat easy to earn, but I didn't believe that it was for us. So I wasn't raised with money. In fact, my parents were teenagers when they had me, and my dad worked 4 jobs. So for me, money came as a result of hard work. And I definitely proved that, but I knew that if I was willing to work hard, then I could have it, which is such like a belief that's actually not true. But, you know, we always get what we believe, and the universe is very good at showing me that as long as I worked hard, it was there. And so my relationship to money changed as I learned more about universal laws and manifesting, and that the results that I was getting was always showing me the truth of what was going on inside my mind. And I didn't really learn about money until I didn't have it. So in 2015, I found myself in a lot of debt, in credit card debt. I had quit my corporate job to focus on my side hustle because I thought if I just had more time to work hard on it, I would succeed. And I said yes to network marketing and gave up a corporate job. And so very quickly I found myself in 6 figures of credit card debt, and it was not good. I was like using one credit card to pay off the other, figuring out how to pay mortgage with credit cards. And it was really a challenging spot to be in. And at that time, my mother actually dragged me to a Bob Proctor seminar. And I was listening to him speak about success, and more importantly, like why someone is successful and the other person wasn't. And I had all these reasons outside of me at that time as to why I wasn't successful. And he basically had me take responsibility for my results. And in that moment, I knew that he was sharing something that was true, like the truth resonated with me. And I followed his lead, and within 6 months tripled my income and started winning awards. And it had been like years of struggle to all of a sudden like money just flowing. And so I share that because this idea of like manifesting it, although we're always doing it, you can't turn it off. I had to learn it came from because I didn't have it. It came from struggle to like really being open to understanding like why it was then all of a sudden flooding into my life.
Okay, can you speak a little bit more to that? So was it the idea that there's no other choice? Does it, the fact that you don't have any opens up your mind in new ways to other possibilities? Or what was that shift that you feel kind of made that
Well,
difference?
I think because to your point, like my back was up against the wall. So I needed to
Right.
figure something out. And I think that's not a bad place to be. You're
Yeah.
so open to change, and things were so bad that like when I had to borrow three credit cards to pay for the investment, the down payment to Bob Proctor's program, and it didn't make any logical sense. Like on paper, why would I invest more money when I was already so far in debt? But I knew that he knew something I didn't. And when I made the decision, and like my husband at the time was completely against it, and didn't believe that I would like make it work because I had invested so many other times and nothing changed anything. But I remember making this decision like it's like there's no way but it working. And I can't tell you why this decision was different other than, yeah, I was up against it. Like I was up against the wall, and I decided to be completely coachable. And if I'm honest, I was not coachable in other things that I had invested in. I didn't do it. I didn't play full out. And so I think there's some power when you have no choice but to rise. And saying that,
Mm.
I've learned, and I've thought about this a lot, is like, can I still rise without the Phoenix energy? Do I need to burn it to the ground? Do I need to have my back up against the wall in order to create the results I want? And the answer is yes. Like I don't have to have that. And some of us are very used to getting ourselves out of tough situations when we have no choice. Like it's amazing what human can
Mhm.
do.
Yeah, I really appreciate you going there because I feel that maybe we don't talk about that enough. And the motivation behind what it is and what is bringing you to it. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. As you said, you don't need to
Yeah.
have it to be there. But the reality is that sometimes we need to be in a space where we are ready to make changes. Otherwise, good is good, right? It's so easy to stay in the goods in a good space. And that is one of the things that I think is holding so many people back is we're in a good spot. And yeah, we want more, but where we are is pretty good. So let's just stay here and stay
So
comfortable.
true. And I think even when things aren't comfortable, we're still comfortable in the chaos. So we choose what's
Yes,
familiar. And it's
absolutely.
so crazy to me, like to think about it, but our willingness to like it's almost like we fight for our limitations or we argue,
Hmm.
not so great life.
Yeah, that was I remember a big aha for me personally, just going down like doing the work around nervous system and learning more about how our nervous system are set and realizing that, yeah, maybe your nervous system, even though it feels there's chaos, the anxiousness, the overwhelm, the fear, all of that can also be your kind of safe place to be, which sounds so counterintuitive. It makes no sense because everyone says they want inner peace, but do you actually have the capacity to hold that inner peace? And it's the same with the money conversation. I mean, we all want more money. Yes, like bring on the money, but are you actually in a space of being able to hold it? It really kind of flips around so much of the way in which we look at it.
Absolutely. I can so resonate with being the chaos being normal and being comfortable. Yeah, it's bizarre and very true for like a lot of us.
Right. Now, you mentioned Bob Proctor, and I have always been such a big fan of Bob Proctor's. He is just a pure, such how do you even describe him in terms of a teacher? But I'd love to get your perspective on what it was like to be in his inner circle and spend the time. Like, what was it about him that shifted something for you?
Well, I didn't remember him from The Secret, although I had seen the movie The Secret. And so when my mother dragged me literally to this seminar, it was in Guelph. So I was living in Toronto at the time, and she held up this book actually. And, we were on the phone. She's like, he's reading that from that book that you read, Think and Grow Rich. And I'm like, Mom, I know this book. Like, I don't need to go listen to some guy read from it. And here I am, so ignorant and like thinking that I know it, and yet I'm $100,000 in debt. And
Mhm.
so when I got dragged there, I could feel his wisdom, like he just had such a calm knowingness about him, and there was no convincing. Like, it was okay. Everyone's on their own journey. That, like, if this resonates, then it resonates with you, and this is your time. That's really was his attitude, and it was his job to communicate and teach this to as many people as possible and find the ones that were ready to hear it, and that the way that he spoke and the way that he taught was so simple, and he was always looking to get better because he felt like if he could communicate this so that it would land for more people, that the world would change. And he was absolutely right. So I first met him in 2015. By the end of that year, I had tripled my income, and I decided that I wanted to become a coach, a consultant with Proctor Gallagher Institute. So I registered, and I'll never forget the day that I registered. He actually got on the phone with me, and he said to me, "How much is the most you've ever earned?" And I was like, "What? Like, this? What a weird question." And I was like, "Okay, well, with my network marketing job and like career and my um, corporate career, probably around like 100,000, maybe like 110,000 a year." And he's like, "That's going to be your yearly income." And I remember being at my kitchen table, and I was like, spit out my water. I'm like, "What? What's this guy talking about? Like $100,000 a month?" Well, I kid you
Mhm.
not, like, that actually happened a year and a bit after meeting him, after he said that to me. And I was so confused. I'm like, who does he think I am? Like, to earn 100,000, like, that's crazy. But Bob believed in and really understood that every single person has infinite potential. And he had this incredible ability to see or perceive that in every single human being that came into his presence. And you could feel that he believed it. Like, in his
Mhm.
he just saw that infinite potential within every person. And he could also see truth. So that used to totally intimidate me, because he could tell by what was going on in your outside world, what was going on in the inside world. And at one point, he actually called me out and said that my mind was chaotic, and that if I had a job, that I'd be fired because there was so much chaos happening inside my mind. And he was really good at like really reflecting back to you your truth, your potential, but then also what was happening right now, so that you could see it and change it and take radical responsibility for your results. So, not always easy to be around him, but super, and at the same time, super magical.
Such a gift, such a gift. And one of the things I know that I've learned from him is how we tend to all stay at the surface level. Like, you read a book and it's how many books can I read? And he's such a big believer of no, like, you reread the book over and over. So you actually study the book. And again, as you said, like, so simple the way that he says it, yet why doesn't everyone do it then if it's
Well,
so
what's
simple,
so
right?
interesting, he would say, like, hundreds of thousands of people have read this book, and only so many are rich because of it. What's the difference? And it's because people read
Mm.
it and put it down. They go on to the next thing. They assume that they understand. And understanding on a conscious level is very different than understanding and embodying it in a subconscious way. And if we read it and put it down, are you really integrating the beliefs that are in this book, the concepts, the ideas with your behavior? And you'll be able to tell by your results. So if you now think and grow rich, then yes, you have. And if you have not done that, if the riches have not shown up in your bank account, then you are not applying it in a way. And so Bob would say the repetition is a way that you will become emotionally involved with the concepts in the book enough to embody them. And so he read this book for
Right.
60 years.
Wow. No, I mean, what a person and what a teacher, for you to also be in, because there's something about it's his energy as well. And what I'm feeling kind of guided to go next is the whole idea. I've shared on a personal level that my word this year is believe. And I had this experience where I was sharing something. I was making this statement. And actually, it was in relation to this event that we recently had. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I just know that it's going to be full. And I had, as I said it, Danielle, I felt like in my whole body, just this knowing, and it made me pause because I thought it's not about what I was saying, but I just thought, oh wow, that's what belief feels like in your body. And it really was an invitation to look at the other areas of my life and the other maybe goals that I have. And do I hold that same level of belief? So this year is really about strengthening that belief. And I don't know, I'm feeling like you're the right person to have this conversation. I'm curious, like, how do you work on your
Yeah, that's
belief?
such a good question. I love that that's your word, first of all, and I love that you had the experience around your event of this knowing. And so one
Hmm.
belief, because it's almost like if you can bottle up that feeling and understand what it feels like, and then when you're not in it. So it's
Hmm.
important to have that distinction, isn't it, within your body? And here's the truth about belief is that you'll always get what you believe. If everyone listening writes that statement down, I get what I believe. And here's the truth, you cannot fake believe. So then the question becomes exactly what you were asking, Renee, like, okay, so then how do I believe? If when I notice if this event, I believe that we sold out, and so we did. That's it. So then it's like, okay, what else? Okay, I've got this next goal to sell my next program, and I notice in my body I don't believe, like it does not feel the same. It's not a knowing, but it's like kind of like a wish energy, which is not belief. And so then how do we transfer? So how do we believe? And I believe that what from my and this is interesting that I said I believe, so it will be for me, right? So in my experience, that the belief comes through a repetition of an idea. So if I would have interviewed you 6 months ago about your event, you might not have had that knowing that it was going to fill. So if I would have honestly
Hmm.
asked you, Renee, how do you feel about the 90 or 100 people in the room? You might have, if you were truly honest with me, you might have said, yeah, I think we'll probably hit it. Okay. Then what happened between that stage and the time when you believed? Well, you would have either consciously or unconsciously. So now I do it consciously. You would have been continuing to think about this event over and over in your mind. And really what you're doing is you're rehearsing it, or you're visualizing the event. And with the repetition of the visualizing of it and you becoming more emotionally involved, maybe confirming speakers or speaking to the venue, going to the venue, starting to really see it in your mind. The more that you did that with the emotion, so you allowed yourself to get excited and emotionally involved with the event itself and the outcome, the positive outcome of it, that's how you create belief. So it's the repetition of the same idea over and over and over and over. And so if you, maybe 6 months to maybe like a month before when you had that knowing, that's what you were doing, either consciously or
Hmm.
unconsciously. Does that resonate?
Yes. Yeah. No, it
And
resonates.
so that can
Hmm.
be transferred to anything.
Absolutely.
Then it's like, how do I move from
Hmm.
that state to the state? Well, it's just enough time visualizing, using the power of my mental muscles to rehearse a future memory where I play it so often in my mind that I then believe it in my subconscious, and I can't fake believe it. And there's the timing, like there's no mathematical equation. I can't say, well, Renee, it's going to take you 362 hours of visualization. No, it depends on all the environment of what's in your subconscious mind, and it depends on a lot of like factors that we allow to impact the way that we're thinking, and most importantly, thinking in our subconscious. But it takes time and it takes repetition.
It's different also depending on what we're talking about. Like this event for me was easy because it was our second year. I had a lot of evidence supporting the fact that it was going to be, but then there are other things maybe for some people, and it can be finding the right partner, right? Maybe there's a belief that that's the hard one to actually be able to believe. So it may require, is what you're saying, depending on where you're at, some things may require more repetition, more time, because the belief needs more anchoring, more rooting in.
And there's also some healing that might need to happen. Like that's really
Right.
understanding what's in the subconscious mind that's impacting your ability to believe that. And there's lots of tools. There's lots of people that can help. There's healings that you could do. So there's lots of, factors around that. And what I've noticed is through the repetition and the rehearsal in your mind, those parts of you that you're ready to heal, that might be impacting your ability to believe it, are going to come to the surface.
Wow. So what have been for you personally? So I know we talked about money, but has that been, because I feel like we tend to have certain areas where like that's the one that's our area that we are called in this lifetime to work on. What have been some of the beliefs that you've had to work through, or the healing as you talked about?
Around money, yeah. Definitely money is for sure a huge part of my purpose. It's been the lessons around money, and even now I'm like circling back, and I believe that we are our best medicine. So we need to be our best client, if you will. And so I'm definitely being tested around universal laws of money at the moment, as I'm going through a divorce. And so money for sure has been a story that I've been helping myself and a lot of people transmute. So the beliefs around money that have been most important for me are, the first one is money must be kept in circulation. So money is infinite, and so I use the infinity sign, and I'm constantly doing this to represent circulation. So anytime that I notice that I'm holding on to money, so like keeping it for like just in case, or not following a desire, I know that I'm kinking my money hose. And so I'm very conscious of that, because it's an old programming. Like, oh my gosh, like if I pay that bill in full, then what if something else happens? I might not have enough for that. And that is really a belief that is not true. It's not this or that. There's infinite resources, and that the moment I believe that it's this or that, I'm holding on to that money and kinking that hose, and I'm not allowing that circulation to actually happen. So instead, you want to be really like, and I practice this in real time, is pay, but I use a different word. I'm like, I invest that money to pay that bill, for example, and I do it in the energy of appreciation and gratitude for the service that I provide. And anytime I put money through that filter, I have a belief that it comes back tenfold. So it's like $1 equals 10 when I put it through that appreciation filter. And so I visually see myself doing that. And then that's the money, I'm releasing it, and the money comes back tenfold. Not from the place that I released it to, like maybe not the lawyer doesn't then pay me. And when I can release it with that energy, what I notice, and what my clients really notice, especially when we track it and look, opportunities come to me in all different ways that represent and can represent money. And so sometimes it might be that I was invited to speak, and I may not be paid for that speaking event, but what comes after that, because of that speaking event, 5 new clients came, and that was now $100,000 or something, And so you want to really pay attention. But the moment I kink it, like I stop it, the opposite is true. And I'll notice that the opportunities dry up. This is not a coincidence. This is happening by law. So that money kept in circulation is huge, and it's one that you can practice right now in your life to keep it in circulation and keep it in circulation in the energy of appreciation and prosperity and abundance.
It's such a great visual that you're giving listeners to the idea of the hose, right? And kinking the hose. It's easy to understand that. I know I can notice it sometimes. It's when you go to pay a bill and just again in your body, like paying attention to how you're feeling in your body, and that your body's always giving you so many clues as to how you really feel about it. So, and then you visually or physically with your hand doing the infinity sign. I'm gonna receive that. I'm gonna start doing that. I love it because I use the infinity sign, but I've never done it with the hands. And again, it invites the embodiment of the flow of the money. You can feel the money coming back. What a beautiful visual or actual physical practice to
And
do.
that's why it's infinite, right? So we're taught to believe
Hmm.
that it's finite. Like
Hmm.
$1,000 in my account is all that's ever there, but it's not true. It's it's infinite. And if you can
Hmm.
see it as playing that way, and like why I do that with my hands, it's like, okay, so now I invest in something that Renee's doing, and then Renee invests in what Sarah's doing, and then Sarah invests in what I do. Like it just goes all around and comes, and there's
Hmm.
always more than enough, and it literally is infinite. The moment
Mm.
finite, it's going to be so. So I like
Yeah.
reminder is such a beautiful thing. And it's also for me, it brings so much gratitude to like when I get to invest and release it, knowing that it also like comes back and there is no lack.
Oh, wow. I love it. And it goes against how so many of us were raised, and especially maybe the generation before us. It really is an exercise and in deconstructing the way in which we think about money, right? Because most of us were raised where you save money and you save a lot of money. That's the goal. And then, you're careful with what, and so it's not about being irresponsible with money either. I know that there's a big piece of also respecting money that's involved in that. It's not that you're just throwing your money away, but I love this whole infinite.
And
Yes.
sometimes when people hear me speak, they assume that's what I'm saying, and that would be that's not true because also making money is money being
Hmm.
in circulation. So it's when you kink your money hose, when you stop yourself from following desires, and you put the money in a bank or on a shelf for like a rainy day where it's not making money. Money invested and money earning money is money being kept in circulation also.
Okay.
So it's like really understanding like what we mean, and it's the energy that like actually kinks the money hose. It's like I'm not doing that because there's not enough for this. And so it's the attitude of
Yeah.
this and that. And so then could you follow desires? Well, if you feel like, so let's say I desire to go on this trip and I desire to go invest in this program, and could I technically follow desires? If there's any ounce in your body where you feel you're being irresponsible, to use that word, then no. Do it with an understanding that money's in circulation, and you do it in the energy in which I explained, but you can't fake believe it. So you've got to know yourself. But if you have this programming that it's irresponsible, so it be it. You'll always get
Hmm.
and it will be irresponsible, and your outcome will be irresponsible. So there's not like I'm very mindful because sometimes people hear me speak and it's like they're like, okay, fine, then I'm just going to go buy that Gucci handbag. And I'm like, okay, that's
Hmm.
not the coaching. You're not listening. It's kind of like this child going, fine, then I can like earn a billion cajillion dollars. It's like, no, this is not this it's unique to each person, And you've got to be honest with what's going on inside, to your point, Renee, what's going on inside your body. Your body is your guidance system. It tells you what you believe or not, and you can't fake believe it. So do the work and be responsible, not with your money necessarily, but with your actual system and your beliefs.
Okay, that's really great clarity. And I love also the way that you explain with the desires, because where people get confused is that they're like, oh, does it mean that I just go on a shopping spree and I'm meant to like buy whatever? So thank you for clarifying that, because what you're saying is it's based on your desires. And that's also sometimes the people where people can get confused. But you're speaking of your intuitive desires that are coming from a place of, I mean, from a spiritual perspective, I like to use the word either love or fear, right? So love, meaning it's coming, it feels good. I desire this versus I need that bag. Like, I love this bag. I want this bag because it's beautiful and it's going to enhance my life. Nothing wrong with that desire versus, ooh, I need that bag in order to feel worthy, in order to feel like I belong in that circle. There's so much fear. I mean, I feel that in my body just saying it, right? One comes from fear, one comes from love. So really, as you said, learning to so much of it is learning to know yourself, or being in a space of knowing yourself and recognizing how you feel. That's what matters.
Totally. So good.
Can we speak more about the universal laws?
Sure. My favorite topic. um, I am obsessed with the laws. I'm obsessed with understanding them and teaching about them so that we can really live in harmony with them. There's a great book, Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. And he says, and this is actually the book that The Secret was made on, based on like years ago. And he says, you get rich not by doing certain things, but by doing things a certain way. And that certain way is by law. And so then understanding them is really key. There's a few of my favorites that I love to talk about today with my clients. I was just teaching on the law of opposites, also known as the law of polarity. And what that law states is that everything has an opposite, but it's the same. It's the polar ends of the same thing. So in order for us to have hot, there must be cold, up, down, inside, out. So everything has an opposite. And so that we can see that very clearly in the physical world. So there's poverty and prosperity and health and sickness, right? We can see that, but that it also exists not only like in the physical, but also in the mental and the emotional realms as well. And so then understanding that in order to have one, there must be the other. So I think about this a lot with money and the way that the law of opposite shows up. So if you have a desire for more prosperity, more money, and maybe your goal is $100,000 a month, like Bob said to me, and you have this idea, then the law of opposites is going to show up to provide the context or the container for you to hold that $100,000 a month. And so what that looks like is that when you create that goal, I desire $100,000 per month. I'm really increasing my service to be able to attract that into my life. And that's really where my focus is. The moment you desire that, the opposite will show up either in the physical, like an actual bill that will have you feel lack or limitation, or the perceived threat of it so that you feel it. And so oftentimes in manifestation, a person will think that they're not on the right track because here they are with a goal of manifesting more money and more bills come in. And they're like, what's going on? I'm like, more money. And then what's happening is the universe is creating the container for the more. You've got to be able to hold the cold if you want the hot. You've got to be able to hold both ends of it. And so I think about, we hear sometimes in the rap songs or like some leaders where they say like more money, more problems. And not that we're manifesting more problems, and at the same time, our ability to hold the more includes the lack of it or the problem side of it. If you want the
Mm.
side, you're got to be able to hold the problem side of it. Does that resonate? Does that make sense, Renee?
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. It's the whole idea with increasing your capacity to hold what it is that you need. And that's the piece that where it pays to have a mentor or a coach to be like, no, actually, this is a sign that you are exactly on the right track. Because it makes sense that, as you said, someone would think, well, I must be doing this wrong because I'm calling in this. And at the same time, the opposite is happening. So there's so much of value when you understand it to at least be able to be in a place of not being as activated by it, of recognizing, oh, okay, this is it. This is good.
Yeah, and actually your response to those bills dictates what comes next. So if you react in panic and in like, oh my gosh, like there's not enough, again, the universe gives you what you believe. So you'll always be proven right. So that reaction of scarcity and fear, you're going to attract more things to be afraid of. And so what happens is a person prolongs that period when it could be
Hmm.
if you respond with the awareness of the law of opposites. And you actually like, oh, to your point, you said, oh my gosh, this is a good sign, and a mentor can help you see that. And if you truly embody that and believe that, oh, this is perfect. I was told the law of opposites always shows up right before the prosperity comes. So if I can hold my energy of prosperity and feeling prosperous, even with these bills, if I can hold the energy of abundance within me, despite what's
Hmm.
outside world, then what must happen is the manifestation of the $100,000 month by law. It's up to me
Mm.
to hold it. And it's not a problem if I don't. It's just that I'm going to prolong the season of the lack and limitation before the prosperity comes.
What's showing up for me too is how living by the laws helps with your belief that we were talking about, right? Because you're like, well, okay, this just happened. Of course, by law, I'm now going to receive that. So that helps to invite a certain level of certainty in, and that's like the ultimate belief is when you're certain that, yeah, it's coming. It's just a matter of time.
Totally. And my mentor used to call that faith. And he said, faith
Mm.
isn't blind faith. Faith is the result of study and understanding and applied knowledge. So we build the faith because we study the laws, we apply the laws, and then we have a knowing because of our experience of through that application. And that faith is unshakable.
Wow. What have been some of, apart from the money piece,
Yeah.
I'm curious what some of your greatest manifestations have been.
Ooh, that's fun. Well, I have a beautiful chalet that I use for with clients in retreat. So it's just
Mm.
near Blue Mountain in Ontario where we are, and that was such a cool manifestation because first of all, I had been looking for a property that I wanted for some time. So from probably about January, February, and then I got the keys in November. And I had a very clear picture of the house that I wanted. And specifically, I could see it with a back deck in the forest. And it had these like doors. So, in California, like homes like this are all over where it's indoor, outdoor living. And it's like a huge,
Mhm.
massive door. And I wanted that in Ontario. It's not so common here. But I could see this door on the screen of my mind where I was just like in nature, in the forest. And I had been looking at home after home after home and like contemplating, like, could I put one of these doors in? And, nothing seemed totally right. It would not like check off so many boxes. And I went into this home in Collingwood, and it had the sliding door. And
Mm.
I go into the back deck, and it's exactly what I had pictured in my mind. I'm like, this is the house. And it had like it I didn't know how it was going to come together, to be honest, because it was probably about maybe 500 or 750,000 more than what I was approved for with mortgage and all of that. And I'm just like, this is the house. So like, let's figure it out. And the way in which even a week before the closing date, I found out that I was $500,000 short. They thought that I was going to be $500,000 short for the down payment. Now you might be like, well, how did that happen? Well, it was appraised, and it was appraised for less than what we were than what I was approved. And so, but it ended up being a mistake that the appraisal actually got the comparables wrong. But a week before, I got a call and they said, you're going to have to come up with $500,000 in cash. And you have 1 week, or else you're going to back out, or you'll have to back out on the deal, or and they'll probably sue you, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
a thing. So, and the way I even like manifested the $500,000 in a week to pay, and then I didn't even have to do it because they found out that there was a mistake in the actual appraisal. So anyway, it's just like so fascinating how I found it, how it was exactly what I saw in my mind, and then the way that in which it came together. You know, it was just like, again, the belief.
The belief, and then also that it wasn't all perfect. And I think that that's the piece too that people, I'm receiving as well. Is it's not. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be perfect. There's those moments of, I'm sure you had maybe a moment of doubt of, oh my goodness, and
Freak out.
yet
Panic.
kind of like
Yeah.
leaning. Yeah, good. I'm glad you also freak out because I probably would have been freaking out too. Um, uh, it's leading me to this question of, because from a spiritual perspective, and it's interesting because we just had a whole session on that yesterday in my membership, but just the whole idea of surrender and detachment, and not like coming from a place of you hold the desire but then also letting go of your attachment to it. And so as you were talking about this, so I love that we have like this example, because it was, so you had the idea of the cottage or the chalet. You could see it. There were some elements of it that were very clear to you, the location, the door, all those things. What is your perspective on like where is that sweet spot between holding that desire, holding the vision, but then at the same time practicing the surrendering piece of letting go of the attachment to it?
Yeah, I love this question. And what comes to mind, a good friend of mine is Danielle Laporte, and she has the book, The Desire Map. And this was a book,
Mhm.
gosh, it would have been like 13 years ago, 15 years ago when she first read it and wrote it. And in that book, she talks about desires being like, we think we desire the thing, like the house or the chalet, but really what we're desiring is the feeling that that is going to bring us. And so I think about this often. So we have I had the desire for the chalet, and then if I can become really honest with what the feeling, like why do I want it? What is the why behind it? How am I going to feel once I have it? And I believe that a desire comes to us in order for us to grow, because the person that I am now is not the person to manifest the chalet, or else I'd have the chalet. And so the purpose of the desire is for me to grow into the person to have that thing. And then in Danielle Laporte's book, she talks about that feeling behind. So for me, what it looks like to surrender is to understand that I might have a picture. So yes, the sliding doors of the chalet, the location being in a forest, and the true the part that I want to understand that is that there's a feeling that I'll get when I have that chalet, that I might think that the being in the forest might give me that feeling, but my higher self might be like, oh, Danielle, actually it's being by the water is going to give you that.
Mm.
And so who am I to know? Like, I don't know better than my higher self or God or the universe. It's like I surrender into the picture that I've created, yes, but that I surrender into the how, I surrender in what actually comes. And I believe that it's coming to answer that question of the why behind the desire, which is that big part of the desire map that Danielle brought.
Mhm.
I love that because it allows me to let go, going, it's going to come in the way that to answer that call. Does that make sense?
No, it makes so much sense. And it's a great way because it is one of those intangible, I mean, most of spirituality is intangible, but the idea of surrender, it can be confusing, right? From a manifesting perspective, because it's like, well, aren't I supposed to hold on to the vision? And yet at the same time, yes, we don't want to come to it from a needing, clinging energy either. So where does the detachment come from? But that makes so much sense when you focus on the emotion, when you know that it's not necessarily, you can hold the vision of it, but you're understanding that it is what you're searching, what you're calling in. The desire is more about the feeling that that's going to bring you. Then there's less of an attachment to the actual physical, whatever it is. It's the emotion driving you forward.
Yeah, totally. And I think that we get to trust in the attractions that we manifest into our lives. So if we go back to a home, like I might think that I want to be on the ocean, for example, and then I attract a condo on the ocean. This is actually a story from one of my clients. She attracts an ocean on the a condo on the ocean with nice big windows. So she's overlooking the ocean, and she believes that's what she desires, and she gets that, and she's renting a place. And then within the first week, she realized she can never see outside the windows because the
Mm.
ocean, the salt, ends up constantly covering those windows. And so she hardly has a view. And she's like, oh, I thought I wanted that. And the universe brings her this, but the contrast allows her to become more clear. So maybe it's not the ocean, maybe it's just water. And so I
Mm.
like letting go and understanding that there's constant growth in all of it. So then she becomes more clear, and she then says, okay, well, maybe it's water, maybe it's not necessarily the ocean. And the next place she attracts is at a condo, but it's now on a not a saltwater bed of water, and she's like right over, and she's in this bliss. But she wouldn't have known that if she didn't have the experience of being in the condo on the water. And I'm like, so we get to trust and we get to surrender to what comes, and sometimes it's for the lessons that contrast brings us. And if we can just
Yes.
let go and be constantly like in for the ride and know that nothing's by mistake, nothing's a coincidence, that everything's coming towards us, and at the rate at which it's supposed to and in the way that it's supposed to. And I just think that there's such a beautiful thing in like responding to life that way rather than being so rigid and need to force things.
Absolutely. It's this deep trust that things are unfolding for you in some way, even when it may not seem like it is, that there is something there for you, whether it's in a lesson in contrast or it's to guide you, it's to pivot or to direct you somewhere else. And that would be like an underlying belief, which leads me to, I mean, I could keep going. Danielle, I'm so enjoying this conversation, and I know that the listeners will as well, but it leads me to what what does spirituality mean to you in terms of, obviously you're speaking of being in co-creation with the universe as you speak of manifesting. How do you strengthen, deepen, stay connected with your own spiritual connection?
I love this question. I once heard, probably 10 years ago, this idea that we are a human being having, we're not a human being having a spiritual experience, which is what I used to always say, like I'm spiritual, but instead that we're this spiritual being having a human existence. And I love that flip. I think
Mhm.
completely resonates with me. How I stay connected is through daily meditation, daily visualization, and I will combine them. So my meditation moves into a visualization on purpose. So I guide my mind to do that. Um, and a lot of journaling. And observing myself and asking for guidance. And I believe that we're always being guided. And I believe when we pray, we're speaking to God. And when we're listening to our intuition, it's God or the universe speaking to us. And so I'm constantly in that dialogue and trusting the dialogue that I get and trusting myself within that. And it's a practice. I believe that our intuition is a muscle, and our connection to spirit's a muscle. And if we don't use it, it becomes weak. And so that daily meditation, daily journaling, daily guidance, asking for guidance is my best way.
Beautiful. So if somebody is listening and they want to be in your world to learn more about what you do, what is the best place for people to connect with you?
Instagram, I find it's a lot of fun. So it's me in there, plus the help of some ManyChat bots, which we call her Mandy. And so Mandy will reply to you first. She'll give you some loving and some free resources. And then it's always me. I go in there a few times a week and I actually respond and say hello. So when people, if you listen to a podcast like this and you've got some questions, please come in and DM me and we'll riff back and forth. I love voice notes. So I'll send you a voice note and we can get to know each other that way. So thank you.
And what's the handle?
At the Danielle Amos.
Perfect. And we're going to actually share all of your information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your energy with me. I'm feeling so open and receptive and very much in my manifesting energy, which is awesome.
Thanks for all you do. I was, saying before we hit record that it's such an honor to meet you finally and to witness the work that you're doing through the event and with clients. I love meeting another woman that's on a very similar path and inspiring others. So keep up the great work. And I can't wait to do this again.
I know. I love, this is the beauty of when we were saying that also earlier, when you meet people who are share similar ways of being and beliefs, and we get to be able to show up where we can do this together. It's like you feel like you're holding hands with all these incredible women, and what a liberating way to show up in the world.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for being here. And I do want to remind you that you are, as always, spiritually wired for love, for peace, for success, for abundance. And I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Spiritually Wired. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and leave a review. It really makes a big difference for the podcast. And if you're ready to dive deeper and join a soul-led community, come be a part of the Spiritually Wired membership. With weekly live lessons and a rich library of recorded classes, it's designed to support you every step of the way on your spiritual journey. We currently have a special offer where you can receive your first month for half the price. You can find a link in the show notes or come check it out at reneewalkerwellness.com. Until next time, remember to take some deep breaths. Remember that you are spiritually wired.